Hello, soulmates. You're now listening to Peppersoup stories meant to soothe the souls of women everywhere. Episode 2: Life and Career Transitions Using the Power of Positive Thinking with Bev Obatoyinbo, Ejemen, OKOJIE, and Patrenia, ONUOHA. The Peppersoup stories. Soothing the soul of women is a flavorful blend of conversations with thought leaders, experts, and everyday sheroes who bring you stories and insights to warm your heart and stimulate your mind. Our mission is through storytelling, sharing strategies and real-life practical ways to turn peppery circumstances that burn your eyes to flavorful, soothing pepper soup. If life gives you pepper, make pepper soup.
I love that. I love that. I love that. And my co-host and I, we've been blessed with networks and experiences and just feel called to share with you. So without further ado, let's dive into today's episode of Peppersoup Stories, and we'll be talking about life and career transitions using the power of positive thinking. And our special guest will be sharing her personal journey. Load up, start up the car, let's go. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, Bev. It's so nice to finally have you here. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Me.
Yes, been exciting waiting to have this conversation with you. So to start off with, Bev, could you tell our listeners, we call them soulmates, a little bit about yourself and your journey so far?
Ooh, a little bit.
Right?
Okay. There's a lot. So I like to be called Bev, but my full name is Beverly Spencer Obatoyinbo. So you can probably guess from my name that I'm married to a Nigerian who's called Ebi. And if he doesn't appear behind me at some point during this recording, I will be amazed.
Me too.
So I am the mum to two wonderful boys, one of whom is arriving in Nairobi tonight for a week's holiday. They're both professional rugby players, so that's probably another conversation as we go on. Ebi and I have been together for a very long time, since about 1988. I did have a life prior to Ebi, which was based in London, and where I went to do nursing, and I actually qualified as an oncology specialist, so working in the cancer space in the Royal Marsden in London. I met Ebi whilst I was working there, and we both decided that we wanted to go and look for some opportunities overseas. And funnily enough, the company that I went to work for realised that I was very open to working in Nigeria, and I think they'd been struggling to get people, particularly women, to go to work in Nigeria, and I said I'll do it. So it was actually my first overseas posting to Lagos, and I remember arriving like it was yesterday, and that was 1996. So 1996 to around about 2.5 years ago, I was with the same company which took Ebi and I all around the globe, which was really exciting, gave us many opportunities, which I'm always extremely grateful for, and also gave a really interesting life experience to the boys, and I don't think they'd change anything, even moving around and going to different schools. So working provided lots of opportunity for me, obviously lots of change, every time changing country, moving house. I was trying to count how many times I've moved house, and I think it's over 20. Yeah, if I include London as well before we travelled out to our first posting in Nigeria. So we've moved house a lot. And the interesting thing about that is I always find it's a really good chance to have a clean sweep. To clear out all of that dead wood from your brain, as well as the house. It also was a really good opportunity with the boys to get them to be selective about what they wanted to move with, and the rest was usually donated to a motherless babies home or somewhere that we could find that would really appreciate some of the things that the boys didn't really need to be dragging halfway around the world. So yeah, I think the career opportunities have been amazing, and I've hoped that I've taken as much advantage of them as I could. The last 2 years have been a big transition for me. So I retired from BAT, who I'd worked with for 26 years. And it's a real change, even though you feel like you're preparing yourself as much as you possibly can for that, life-changing transition. When it actually happens, it's a different matter. So I would say I've taken the last 2 years to start to do the things that I really love in life. To start to make some pepper soup. And
Okay.
yeah, you think you know what you want to do after you've been in the corporate world for many, many years, and actually you don't, until you put your toe in the water and really start to think about how much time do you want for yourself, how much time do you want to give to others, how much time do you want to spend doing things that energize you, things that you really love, and where do you want to invest your time, effort and energy. And it's probably taken me about 18 months to really settle down after leaving the corporate space. Yeah, so that's me. I'm sitting in Nairobi at the moment. It's boiling hot today, and I've been enjoying my garden because it's Saturday. So, and our place here is called Pumba Farmhouse and Cottages, and it's called Pumba because we have a lot of warthogs wandering around our garden.
Oh, like Pumbaa on
The Lion King.
The Lion King. I
Nice.
love it. Thank you for making that connection, because I said I've heard that word before. Oh,
Yeah. So Pumba was the slightly nutty warthog who used to forget things as soon as he'd been told them. And they're actually very much like that. They come into the garden and start eating all of my plants, and I end up chasing them around with the gate man. They call a gate man an askari here. So me and the askari start running around after the warthogs, trying to get them out. They have some little tunnels to get in and out so that we're not stopping them from moving through their natural habitat. So although they do really get me upset when they start eating my plants.
wow.
So, Bev, I'm still looking forward to coming over to Kenya to spend time in your lovely resorts. We'll
I can't
definitely
wait to.
make a note on our on this in terms of the link and how to go. So, a couple of fun facts for me to share. So, Bev talked about moving around the globe 20 times, maybe. Bev and I worked together, moving houses. And it's so interesting because the head office of British American Tobacco was called Globe House. So they did a good job with you, moving you around the globe. So Bev was my coach, she was my mentor, and she was very instrumental in me having an expatriation assignment in London. So I'm forever grateful. Bev actually helped me take my son because that was looking a bit dicey at the time. So I hold Bev in my heart forever. So that was a fantastic experience.
Good to know.
Yeah, Bev talked about cleaning house. I still have some of your ashoki. You gave me some. Yes,
Yeah.
I could bring them. I would show. And there was something you said about identity that was very powerful for me because I've also left the corporate world just looking for my passion. And it can get very overwhelming when you drop that complimentary card that says global this, regional this. And the question you start to ask yourself is, so who am I? And like you say,
Yeah.
where do I want to put my energy at? So I'm very excited, and congratulations to you on Pumba.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I wanted us to sort of unpack your life's journey a little bit. When we saw your bio, you said you were living your best life. I know you've spoken to us a little bit about that, but tell us a little bit more, and maybe, talk about what I would consider to be your most memorable transitions, because I'm sure you can write 5 books, right? From
I'm
nursing to,
trying.
from corporate to from marketing to general management to HR, and now an entrepreneur. Yeah, with
Yeah.
2 wonderful sons and eating.
So I think you asked me first about the transition, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is the day that you walk out of the office. I was very emotional. I've always been very emotional when I've left everywhere that I've worked. But
Yes.
obviously, this was particularly emotional, and I felt bereft. And I got in the car and I was driving home, and I'm getting emotional just talking about it now. I got in the car and I drove home, and I said to Evie, what do I say? When people say to me, what do you do?
Exactly.
And he said to me, you say you're a wife, you're a mom, you say you're in transition, you say that you're hoping to, write a book, you say that you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to enter into hospitality. I obviously took some time to start training as a professional coach. I've got one more set of exams to do. So that was a big focus for me, to kind of get some credentials around the more informal way that I'd been coaching and mentoring. I don't think it's changed an awful lot, even with the training, to be honest. But that did give me some structure, I think. So I was like, okay, right, I'm going to focus on getting some professional qualifications around coaching, and then I can say I'm a coach.
Yeah.
And now I realize it doesn't matter. But it's taken a year and a half. So, and the funny thing is that I got some really interesting speaking opportunities, because here a lot of people knew me because the role that I was in the media quite a lot. And I used to be very vocal about foreign direct investment, and the tax profile of Africa, and the fact that governments overtax organizations and industries, because it's a quick win for them. So I'm very vocal about taxation and all these things. So I was very used to sort of being seen. People knew who I was when I walked around. And all of a sudden, I started getting people calling me up going, we'd really like you to come and speak to us about organisational transformation. We'd like you to speak about the dreaded glass ceiling for women. So particularly on International Women's Day, I was getting like 5 and 6 requests. And all of a sudden I thought, oh, it looks like I'm a public speaker as well. So
add that one.
Add that to the list. And the more I did that, the more contact I was getting for to work with organisations, particularly on culture change and organisational transformation. And so now I've set up a company called Concierge Consulting, actually with my husband, because he does some sports management through that company. And he does a lot of work with, obviously because of our children being professional sportsmen, it gives us the opportunity to talk about how to bring your kids up in what is a very tough environment. It can be like a roller coaster for children who want to become professional in that arena. So it's interesting. From my speaking, we decided to set up this company as well. And so I probably spend about 30% of my time on the consulting side of things. At the moment, the other 70 is dedicated to completing Pumba, but at some point I will rein that back slightly to probably about another 40. And then I've got some space left for me to spend doing things that I love. I love sport, so I really try to, like, tomorrow I'll be playing golf. My son will be here, so the three of us will play golf with my friend who's a really good golfer. So the four of us will go off, play golf, spend 6 hours together, and I'll try not to think about building houses and where am I getting the taps from, or the faucets, as you say in America.
Exactly, faucets. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm so fed up of looking at this spreadsheet and where am I going to buy things from, and the project manager's harassing me. So I think I need to probably in 6 months do a little bit of rebalancing again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If you're just joining us, we are having a discussion on life and career transitions using the power of positive thinking with Bev. And I'm going to ask you to pronounce that last name for me.
Obatoyinbo.
As well as Ejemen, OKOJIE, Coach Jay, and Patrenia ONUOHA, the Mojo Queen. This is Peppersoup Stories, Soothing the Soul of Women. It's a flavorful blend of conversations, as you can see, thought leaders and experts. When we look at our guest today, and British American tobacco, she has redefined. We're talking about identities from a nurse, pharmaceutical industry. She became an area director, marketing director in Nigeria, general manager, area director for West Africa, head of human services for all of Eastern Europe, EMEA. What else have you done? One of the things that I'm loving about
the one
this,
that I like the most.
Huh?
So
Ejemen's
not going to like this. Ejemen's not going to like this because it's not Nigeria. So there are two things that I think you already know this. There are two things that I like the most. So the transition to Nigeria was an amazing transition for me personally and from a work experience perspective, because personally I was going to spend time with the other half of my family and get more sort of involved and imbibed in what being married to a Yoruba man was like, because we'd been kind of hiding in London and pretending that we,
I can relate,
pretending that we weren't really very Nigerian. So we're both very Nigerian now. And obviously my husband is, but I have become so. And the second one was my first general manager opportunity, which was I left Nigeria, where I'd been marketing director for about 4 years. And I got the opportunity to go and do my first general management role, and it was in Egypt, which is the strangest place to send a woman who looks like me, because it's a very kind of male-dominated work environment that really I don't like saying this, but they were kind of taking a bit of a risk. Bev says she wants to be a general manager. Oh, let's send her to Egypt, where they'd never had even female senior management, never mind the boss. And so I went there for 3.5 years, and it was one of the best work experiences that I've ever had. My children were quite young. My youngest son was nearly 4. My eldest was about 6 or 7, and they both, we lived on a golf course in central Cairo. They both learned how to play golf there, and it became a big part of our lives, as I've already mentioned. So the 4 of us spending a lot of time together doing things that we loved, like sport, was really a fantastic opportunity. But I mean, I just loved every second of it, even the challenges. So everything that was thrown at me, and I had some interesting opportunities and interesting challenges in Egypt. And I got arrested for tax evasion by the
Egyptian.
I never knew that.
Whoa.
That's one of the things that you don't know about me. There you go.
Yes.
So I was with our legal director, Tariq Ismail, and the finance director, Eric Tavet, who was French Canadian. And they called me from the front desk and said, the tax office of Egypt are here, and BAT Egypt has been accused of tax evasion. Obviously, we hadn't evaded tax. We've been accused of tax evasion, and they want to take the managing director and the finance director away. And I was like,
Wow. Away?
And they came with handcuffs and almost like a big black van, and we were going to be piled into the back of this. And luckily, my legal director, who was Egyptian, was very well connected, and he made a few phone calls. And at least for that particular moment, we weren't taken away in handcuffs, and they managed to persuade them that it would be a very bad idea to do that, and it would be all over the press, and this lady's British, and blah, blah, blah. But we ended up having a
No. I cannot believe that we actually have this in common. When I came to work for Shell in 2006, I was taken into custody as well. I was in the barracks. I was taken into custody for unpaid monies. And just the, experience that you're in a country that you're not from, what could happen, all those things can potentially play in your mind. I've never talked to someone else who had that experience. Oh, I'm really feeling like more than just a Niger wife with you now. I feel like a sister. It's amazing what you can overcome, like you said, with positive thinking and knowing the right people.
Actually, that's because a few people in the business and some of my senior bosses back in London were very, upset and nervous about the whole thing. And I said to them, I am 100% sure that we've done nothing wrong, so I'm not concerned. And I said, now, we found an amazing external lawyer. I won't say her name, but I can remember it. She was absolutely outstanding. And I worked together with her and Tariq, and also the Ministry of Trade for the UK. They had a really good ambassador in Egypt, and he provided us a lot of support as well. And we ended up winning the case, but it was 2 years of blood, sweat and tears to work our way through these accusations, and it was very distracting. And I think the thing that I did was, between myself, the finance director and the legal director, we kind of ring-fenced this challenge from the rest of the business. And I handed over the day-to-day running of the business at that point to the marketing director. And he was like, I'm like, all of the stuff that is just going to happen daily, just get on with it. And we need to make sure that this thing does not progress in any shape or form that would impact the business going forward. So it was a very I remember saying to my finance director, get a grip of yourself, you need to man up. Now I can't, that phrase man up, I mean it was the perfect phrase at that moment. It's not terribly politically correct, I don't think.
No way.
But at that moment, he was kind of falling apart, and he was going, "Oh, what if we get arrested and we get put in jail? And what if? And I was like, just man up. That's not going to happen." And I remember afterwards thinking, "Oh, I just told him to man up," but it wasn't really a phrase that I'd kind of used before, but it was very apt in that moment. I almost wanted to give him a slap. Do you know what I mean? Pull yourself together, man.
Together. It's not just you. Yeah. I was going to say, Bev, that, there was something I always admired about you, because like you say, when you joined tobacco, you were a rarity as, a woman, and obviously from where you're coming from as well. One of the things I always admired about you was that you never lost your femininity, in that world. I know you were very, very intentional about that. I don't know how you were able to balance it. And when you were talking about, the story of almost being arrested, it sounded like a movie, like drama. Then it now became a nightmare very quick. So I'm wondering, what values and principles have guided you, Bev? Because I mean, I don't know if that was your craziest adventure, but those values and principles, you must have been very intentional, right?
I've
In
had
terms of how you take decisions.
just on the being a female, and you know, I always think it's really important that first of all you should just be yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
if you like wearing a power suit to work, and you know you've got the kind of personality that you know emulates the classic behaviors that people think men behave like, that's fine as long as that's you.
Yes.
You know, so that dreaded word being authentic, you know, which can be a little bit overused, but it's true. But I was always authentically me, and I'm also quite
Yes.
vulnerable. So, you know, I'm sure you've seen me cry.
Many times. We called you a ladger.
So, you know, if something made me really upset or sad, I wasn't afraid to show people that I was upset or sad. If something made me really angry, as long as I was very firm but fair with that individual, you know, what's happened now isn't acceptable, I would address it kind of head on rather than letting it fester or not say, or try and have some kind of coaching session 3 hours later. I'd very much be in the moment, and that was always me. And I felt it was important to be feminine as well, because you know I am after all female. I love nice clothes. I like to wear nice things to work, and why shouldn't I look like a woman? So and I think people are more comfortable with that these days than they were probably 20 years ago when I first started. And I know that I subconsciously used to wear trousers when I was having meetings because I didn't want my legs to be on show, for example. I just didn't. I didn't want anything about me that, because I was the only woman in a room of like 18, 19 men.
Yeah.
So I didn't want anything to detract from what I was about to say. So I wanted the words and, you know, the power of me speaking to be the things that people were thinking about and looking at, not the fact that I'd got a short skirt on. So I did make a conscious effort not to distract. As I got older and more experienced, I cared less about that. And I just wore whatever I wanted. So,
Yeah, even the trads.
oh, I love wearing my trad. I'm really
Yes.
wishing that I got a new dye lab.
You did.
You know me, I'm so current, Ejemen. I'm so current.
Totally.
I got a new dye lab, and I actually wore it to go out last night, and I thought, oh, I should have worn it today for this.
Yes, you should have. But you'll take a picture, and if you took a
I'll
picture,
take a
share.
picture.
Yes.
I'll send you a picture with all of my
one.
female family members that we took at my sister-in-law's 60th just a few weeks ago. There's about 24 of us, and we're all wearing a different coloured dye lab
Nice.
Adire. So I'll send you that
Love
picture.
it.
It's very heartwarming.
I love it.
So for our global audience, trad is traditional clothing, right? It's traditional clothing. You have to tell me, what is a dialogue? What's that?
So Dye Lab is a very current producer of Adire boo-boos, and they're so well made. They're all lined in different colours, so you can kind of turn up the sleeve and it'll be bright turquoise. The Adire will be navy blue and maybe pale blue, or you can have bright pink on the inside. They're so cool, honestly.
I'm very
I have to take note of that one.
They're very comfortable. So my sister-in-law, my baby sister-in-law, who is one of twins, she was briefed to bring me a whole load of new up-to-date Nigerian clothes when we all met in South Africa a few weeks ago. So she had a budget and she went to get me all of these things. So that's why I was laughing at I'm so current with my Niger clothes.
You're current. I was going to say something real quick, Bev. When you talked about being feminine, or you know, being comfortable in your femininity, there are three phrases that came true for me. One is just be yourself, be in the moment, and be feminine. So I'm sure our soulmates will be very happy with that one. And I know you were going to go into values and principles, so let me let you get on with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think to be really honest, doing the job that we used to do in a corporate space, I think my first principle was always honesty. No matter where I went and how difficult the job got, and it was difficult at times, it was stressful at times, I always felt that being honest with my line managers, with the team, we're in a difficult situation, things aren't quite panning out as I expected. How are we going to change our approach, the strategy? What are we going to do? As long as I was honest with everybody, I always felt that I got everybody to work with me or behind me or for me in a very positive, constructive way. So I am not a big fan of brushing things under the carpet. I am not a fan of lying, basically, and certainly not to your bosses. If things are difficult and they're not panning out, I just took it head on and I'd say, right, it's not working. We need to think about a new approach. And some people aren't comfortable with that. They would want you to try and fudge it a bit.
Yeah.
Let's just fudge it and it'll be okay. I'm like, no.
Especially in marketing, right? In terms of the numbers or the business. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
I was just we're gonna get this rhythm right. Let me get in here. That's one thing I observed when I first came to Nigeria is that British and Nigerians tended to sugarcoat. My American culture was just to come out with it and get on with it. I kind of came up with a term, being seen to be. A lot of people put a lot of energy into being seen to be. I don't know if you can relate to that. And I love the way when you talked about just taking things head on, and it takes so much stress out of the situation. What advice might you give to some of our women, some of our soulmates? Because in our workplace, oftentimes we're met with all these untruths, all these being seen to be, where you meet a culture of where truth telling isn't the culture. What type of advice might you give people in those situations?
It's very variable. For me, when I was working, I'd have to get in tune with kind of the cultural influences of each workplace before I would say give advice, because it could be quite different. So, for example, the cultural tones of Egypt totally different to Nigeria. So I always found Nigerians quite upfront, certainly with me. Maybe that was because of the way I work with people and my approach. So I found Nigerians quite direct, and I really love that. And directness, I would celebrate directness with my team. Thank you for telling me. I really appreciate you telling me that this is difficult, or you can't do it, or you need help. I would very much involve people in that moment and kind of celebrate that honesty, and never bring anybody down because they were asking for help or whatever else. In Egypt, they're traditionally storytellers. So for you to go from A to B will take 10 hours. And I'm a very direct British, just give it to me straight. And I'd have to learn to listen to the stories in order to get from A to B. And so that meant that I had to learn to be a little bit more patient, and learn to love the storytelling. Because if I cut them off too early, they wouldn't get to B. They shut down. And then I'd then be frustrated myself, thinking, oh my God, I didn't give them enough time and space to be able to explain to me, what the challenge is, or what do they need my help with, or how is this going to affect them and the team? So that was very different. And then the Swiss, because I worked in Switzerland for 4 years. The Swiss totally different again. They don't tell you anything. They're like a closed book. So you have to kind of wheedle things out of them. And, you know, I'd say to them, is everything okay? And then you just get a little grunt, you know, it'd be like, and I'll be like, what does that mean? Does that mean yes? Does that mean no? I don't even, it was the most difficult place for me to work because of the way that I am. You know, I'm quite gregarious, you know, my hands flying around, and I really try to not do that too much in cultures that don't like it. And my honesty was not very acceptable. Some people found me too direct in Switzerland. They found me almost abrasive, you know, because they just weren't used to it. So, and again, I'm the managing director of the company. So you have to quickly go, okay, this isn't working. I need to very fast understand about Swiss culture, and German Swiss is different to French Swiss, is different to Italian Swiss. Wow. So you have to learn the differences in the way that people behave. Oh, wow, it was tough, you know.
What about Kenya?
So I think one of my superpowers, am I allowed to say I've got a superpower?
Yes, definitely.
Is to very quickly absorb myself in the culture and understand the buttons to press and not press, particularly with teams. So Kenya, I remember saying when I arrived here to the team, so I'd come from Switzerland to Kenya. And prior to Switzerland, I'd been in the UK. Prior to that, I'd been in Nigeria. Prior to that, Egypt. So a bit of a mishmashy journey. And I got to Kenya, and I felt like I'd gone back into second gear. And you know me, I told them. So I said for us to get any kind of organisation. I was brought to Kenya to step change business delivery, and to change the culture. Really, that's what I was briefed about. And me and my honesty, you know, I told them, and I said that's why I'm here, and my plan is that we're going to do it together, you know, and anything that happens has to be part of your DNA by the time I leave it, and I have to leave a legacy. I'm not just one of these people that sort of flies in and tries to change everything and goes rah 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 and leaves, and you're sort of left in a spin wondering what on earth are we supposed to do now, you know. 2 years
so visual.
International assignee who flies in and causes havoc and then leaves. That's not my style, you know. Whatever I do, I want to be part of the DNA in the organization. So we spent a whole 3 months in all of these subgroups trying to define what we wanted the culture to look like, and how to create DNA that we felt comfortable with for Kenya. Kenya is a very conservative society. You know, people really think twice about speaking up in public. If you're in a meeting, you know, you can't hear people speak. They'll literally be speaking like this. And I used to say to them, do you want me to hear what you've got to say or not? You know, are you confident about what you're about to bring to this meeting? Because I'm struggling to hear you. It's a signal that you don't really want to speak out loud, and you know. So that it took a while to get used to me speaking like this, and we did all sorts of training on how to be confident in meetings, how to project, how to have difficult conversations. We were a very specific framework in order to bring the Kenyan's voice into the conversation. And I was very, very specific about it for about 2 years after I arrived. And if you go into the office now, it's totally different. And obviously I don't work there anymore. And so you want that that legacy that you lead, it has to resonate. You know, the ripples have to continue for after you've gone, because I wanted this group of individuals and that people who were very talented to be able to play in a global setting within my company. And if you go into a meeting in London and you start whispering, it's not going to work. Unfortunately, you know, in that sense, you've got to learn to add another layer to your personality in order to survive in the big bad corporate world. And although I didn't like it, I didn't like sort of saying to people, you may not be seen because of this. You may not be heard because of these traits. I'm just going to help you to amplify yourself and your skills so that, you know, people will take you seriously and people will listen when you speak.
Yeah. So Bev, what I'm getting from what you're saying is you're a leader who grew leaders, and you did it through skill building and helping people to understand that they don't lose their authenticity by adding on layers. They just give themselves more versatility and flexibility so that when they find themselves perhaps in different environments, they know when to be quiet and listen and you know, whatever, but they also have the courage and the skills to be able to speak up and really be seen as leaders. With that,
that's it. You don't want to fundamentally change their personality and who they are, but you do need to learn some skills that will allow you to survive in what can be at times quite a cutthroat corporate environment. And those skills would cut across many life situations as well. So you can take it outside of the workplace.
So this is portable. This is portable. So so one of the things that we hope to get from you in this time is, and I'm going to ask the question a little different. Very clear honesty is a key value for you. And we're also getting that developing others is a key value for you. If we were to interview maybe anyone that worked with you, right? What do you think, maybe just some quick lists of how would they describe you in terms of values and principles that they see you living out?
Oh, I'd love to know what Ejemen has to say about that.
She's already told me all the goodies about you, but we want to hear from you, maybe from that perspective.
I think people would say that I'm an energizer. I like to feel that I add positive energy to a room when I arrive. I tend not to project negative energy. It's not something that I like. So I tend to be positive even when I'm stressed. Honesty, I'm a big collaborator. So I love getting the best out of teams. I don't need to be the star of the show. So I might be the managing director, but if I think that somebody else can benefit from a certain scenario or take the reins, I will give them space to do that and bask in their glory. You know, I love other people succeeding. I mean, nothing makes me happier than seeing people that I've coached and mentored. So I would say that I have a generous spirit. I think people that I've coached and mentored being successful and seeing them progress even more senior than I've been, I just love it. I celebrate everything that people do. Have I missed anything, Ejemen? I'm a bit of a lioness. I'm very protective of people. If I feel that people are being treated unfairly, I will definitely speak up.
Definitely, I agree.
And stand at their shoulder and make sure that they get what they deserve.
Yeah. So the one thing I didn't tell you about that, just very quickly, Patrenia, I was going to go for an assignment in Kenya, funny enough, and I was pregnant, and my husband had said to me clearly that, you know what, you're going to be on your own. I'm not coming. I don't want to get my career stuck in Kenya. And Bev whispered in my ear, told me what to do. I did it. I stayed back in Nigeria. I got a promotion. I'm still married to the same man.
Oh, thank God for that.
I have two kids. But I just wanted to say one thing about Bev. Bev reminds me of what we used to say in BAT, which is you work hard, but you play harder. I remember there was a time we went to, was it Cameroon or somewhere, the Benin Republic, where we did so much work. Then we're having drinks, wine in the swimming pool, around the swimming pool. And next thing I knew, we were all in the swimming pool with Bev because she literally jumped in with all her, and we're looking like, okay, we all jumped in.
We'll have to follow.
She gave you permission to be, right?
She gave us permission.
License to operate. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So Bev, I have just some quick things to bring out. And I'm just loving the way your generous spirit is showing up and sharing with us. Our whole premise around peppers is the difficulty and the challenge. And what some people in life just get stuck on the obstacle, and that's all they see. They're blinded by the obstacle, and they never are able to go from obstacle to opportunity. So as you have talked about the positivity, are there any ways we can break it down? Because if you can break it down, then it's trainable, and it takes us into frameworks that people can go and model. So if you were to give any examples of peppers and how you saw the opportunity and turned it into a positive, or patterns that you've seen, I'm just going to leave it wide open, but I want us to be able to serve up something that people can say, item number one, I can try that. Oh, I can try this, or I can try that. How about that?
Yeah, I probably won't speak about anything specific in terms of, a specific challenge, because I think I tend to approach things in a similar way. Probably I modify things depending on how difficult. But first of all, I'm a great believer in getting more brains in the room. So a challenge or a problem or the pepper is not only yours. And so I think I mentioned about collaboration, but I would be very targeted about getting people that I feel would be able to offer great advice or bring new experience or ideas to a challenge or a problem. So I'm not somebody that buries myself in a room and thinks that I need to have all the solutions myself. That's not my approach. So that would be number one. And I am a big listener. So I would definitely listen to what everybody has to contribute before I jump to any conclusions. So get some help, listen. Then I tend to break things down in a very structured way. It's funny. I didn't think that I liked structure until I realized how useful it was.
I went through that in retirement as well. I can relate to that.
Yeah. As a child, I was always very creative. So creativity was more my natural space. And I've learned to love structure and frameworks and realize how helpful and powerful they can be. So I break things down into its smallest denominator, and then I work out what am I going to do about each of those things, and then they add up to the big whole. So it's definitely biting the elephant in several pieces, but I never lose sight of the larger problem. So I guess a great example would be what we're doing here in trying to juggle many things. So I'm trying to juggle the consultancy, building a house. I've already opened the cottages for guests to stay. I'm trying to do coaching. I'm trying to write a book. So what I tend to do is I'm brutal with my organisation. So I'll literally say I'm going to spend 1 hour today working on this, and I try to be very focused. And then I will stop after that hour, have a little bit of a break, walk around the garden. Huge believer in sunlight and nature having a positive impact on you. Walk around and then come back after 10 minutes and do the next chunk depending on how long I've given to potentially maybe working with an organisation that I'm doing at the moment on organisational transformation. So by the time I've finished my day, I feel like I've met my objectives. I hate feeling like I've not achieved. So that framework and being structured, it's the same way that I used to work in the office. I'm now doing that at home, even though I'm working from home most of the time. And I can find it a bit lonely. I'm a bit social, you might have noticed that. So I can find it lonely. So I make sure that I'm breaking up my day, interacting and mixing the tasks up. So that no one task ends up feeling too overwhelming as well.
I love the self-awareness that you're bringing. That's what I'm picking out. It's like so many clients that I run into when I ask questions about their own preference. Okay, what's that movie? Runaway Bride. Have you ever seen Runaway Bride?
And I have a while ago, yeah.
And the theme behind that was she had gotten to the aisle, walking down the aisle with like 7 or 8 different men, and she would always run away. And one of the things that she was asked was, what's your favorite egg? How do you like your egg prepared? And all she ever knew was liking the egg that the fiance of the moment. So Egg Benedict, if he liked Egg Benedict, that was hers. If he liked scrambled eggs. So she had no awareness of what was true to her. And in everything that you brought out and shared just now, seems like self-awareness is really at the core. What types of things do you do to stay in tune with you so that you can, with absolute, talk about, oh, that feels good to me and that doesn't? How do you get to that space?
Well, I've learned to meditate. It's taken me a while.
Okay.
So I've learned to meditate. And I definitely put time aside for mindfulness thinking. It all sounds a little bit hug a tree to some people. They find this really difficult to kind of understand if they're not willing to open their mind to what meditation can offer, or they're just, it's not really their cup of tea. You know what I mean? So, but for me, it works. I also do several activities that I find allow me to kind of empty my brain of all of the stress, or if things are feeling overwhelming. So swimming is a big one. We're lucky enough to have a pool here. The weather's fantastic, so I get to swim. I mean, if I was stressed at 3 PM, I'll just put my swimming costume on and go and swim for half an hour, come back and start again, because I know that whilst I'm swimming, I'm in that moment, and I don't have things racing through my head. So and then spending time, I mean, I call my children my cats, in that, how people sit with a cat and they stroke the cat, and it brings the blood pressure down. My sons do that for me. So if I'm sitting watching TV and I've got one either side of me, by the way, they're 25 and 22 and 6 foot something each. But they have that effect on me. I just find it very calming when they're around. And I think I'm always very grateful when they're around, because they went to boarding school, which was possibly against my better judgment. But they at the time, that I didn't want them to go, but they absolutely loved it and thrived. But now we find that our time together is extremely valuable. So I find that when they're around, I feel very grounded and centered and calm. Yeah.
Wow.
Even if they're telling me all sorts of problems, I'm still just happy that they're there. so yeah.
So Bev, what I'm feeling is kind of like chills as you describe it, because some people hide from what they're feeling. Some people, sit and binge on Netflix. They're just not really in touch with how they're feeling because they're used to numbing it. So allowing yourself to feel, noticing it, labeling it, structuring your life so you have more of it. All of those are ways that you create your pepper soup because you're choosing the ingredients that you want in your life and you put them in the soup, and that's how it tastes good. And I'm just feeling that. All right. I feel like we've hit so many of the points we set out to do. I'm just wondering if there's one thing I wanted to ask. Tobacco. British American Tobacco. So with all the different roles that you've done, you've been in British American Tobacco. And what I can relate with, I worked at Harley Davidson building motorcycles, and especially during riding season, we used to get a lot of negativity. You're killing people, you're riding on bikes, and tobacco, obviously it has had a negative. Tell me how you dealt with that, producing a product that may be perceived by some as a negative. How have you managed that, especially with your value of honesty?
So I'm sure Ejemen's heard this story before, but I mean, when the company approached me, I was working for a pharmaceutical company at the time in marketing in London, and as I said, we were looking for opportunities overseas, and this tobacco company called me and said, we're really interested in your background. We're trying to bring more diverse experiences to our organization. It was traditionally sort of white, middle-aged males, from Europe. That's basically what they were used to. And I said, I can't possibly come for an interview. You're a cigarette company. And they said, we promise you we don't have two heads. Please just come and talk to us and see what you think. So I went for an interview, and I really liked the people that I met. They were very interesting, very well qualified, very professional people. And so I thought, okay, I need to be a little bit more open-minded. Anyway, they offered me a job which was based in Aylesbury outside of London, and then they said to me that we'd be interested in you potentially working overseas, as one of our international assignees. And so I said I would be very interested in that. How's about I think about doing like a 6 months probation period and we see how we get on. And having moved to the company, I just realised that I suppose what it made me do, it made me self-reflect a little bit about, being pious. And these companies have been around for a very long time. They produce products which have a risk associated to them, but they were being marketed in a very professional manner. And they were doing absolutely everything that they can to make sure that there was no access by under 18s. This is obviously the modern tobacco world that I worked in. And everything that they did was done with quality, and there was some ethics around it. And I felt that I could be involved with that, and that adults who choose to do things which are deemed dangerous or risky choose to do that knowingly, and with all of the information these days at the end of their fingers, literally in a computer, you can find out absolutely everything that you want to know about any product category or any activity or riding a motorbike.
Eyes wide open, right? People come in wide open. I love that. And
I just felt that I could be part of an organisation that presented itself in perhaps a bit more of a modern way as well. So whenever I spoke about what I did, I never hid what I did, but I did speak about the risks involved in smoking, and you have to, take any decision about whether you choose to smoke with all of the information available to you. And I do know that there are also a lot of benefits that people attribute to smoking and relaxation, just having a moment to themselves. The number of times that I used to see doctors on the ward when I was in highly stressful situations, going outside to have a cigarette to try and calm their nerves. And so you know the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to smoking, and those people who choose to smoke usually do it because they want all of those little kind of moments of peace, calm, tranquility, and obviously there's risk associated to it. And in the later 10 years of me working there, there was an awful lot of emphasis placed on safer product categories, which I was very much involved with in London. So things like vaping or products called snus, which have a much safer profile but are still able to give people that kind of relaxing moment that you get when you smoke a cigarette. So
or ride a motorcycle. That's what it was like. What I'm just feeling so many things connecting here, and I'll just draw them. That the way that you build your self-awareness is harnessing those times for meditation and mindfulness, because mindfulness requires a lot of self-regulation, that you bring yourself back to it, and then the structure around it. I applaud the way you brought your structure from work into your home life, and I'm kind of making a note to remind myself of that as well. And the tension between creativity and structure. A lot of people feel that they're on opposite end of the poles, but I love the way you brought them in so they can coexist. Within structure, you can still have your creativity. You've also shown us that multi-hyphenated, or slashers, as TD Jakes calls it, you're an author, you're a hospitality, you're a consultant, that all of those are possible, are very, very possible. And when we're, doing our soup and thriving, that we can really play in those spaces. So as we wrap up today, I feel like you have definitely satisfied what we were looking for with just sharing your wisdom, and we're honored to be able to have that with you. But your secret talent, would you have a secret talent? Because you shared your superpower. I love that. Was that your secret talent, or do we have some more?
No, I think my secret talent is that I was a professional ballroom dancer.
Oh, really? Professional ballroom dancer.
Yeah.
Talk about a side hustle now.
So I was actually, I actually did ballroom dancing from a very young age, and I finished when I started working full time, which is a shame. And I competed to quite a high level. Yeah.
Wow! Look at you. Okay. I love that, because the creativity for dancing and the free expression, that's probably what you bring into the workplace. Oh, yeah. So soulmates, you are not just one thing. You can be many things, and you borrow, just like you were talking about your sons, building the skill early on to know what to carry with them and what to leave behind. And as you move from space to space, knowing what to bring along, what will cause you to grow even more, and what you can contribute, is a true life skill. Biggest risk you've ever taken? Was it Egypt or something else?
No, I think what we're doing at the moment, because it's been a big investment. So we've invested in land, we're investing in a building, we're investing in a team of people who we don't know, we're starting from scratch. And we're hoping that, we're going to create a brand that will resonate with tourists coming to Kenya, but also local Kenyans, to come and stay in this beautiful little part of Nairobi where I live. Yeah. So there's a lot of risk around what we're doing, but we're enjoying every second, to be honest.
So, Bev, you just taught the world that in this stage of life, when a lot of people are pulling back from risk, we look at our portfolio, or our house, our fiscal house. A lot of people are doing less risk, and so applaud that, and it's really encouraging. All right. So one Niger wife to another. I just wanted to thank you for being a model. When we come into spaces, either people think we've stolen their husband, and why didn't they marry someone like themselves? And then when they meet us,
Oh
You get
yes, all the time, Ejemen.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, girl. But one of my sister-in-laws, the first time I met her, what she said to me was, we wondered, why wouldn't he choose a Nigerian? Oh, these Nigerians, why did he go and choose you? But now that we've met you, we see why. So
Yeah.
I love when you talked about going into new spaces, and even with the BAT people, it wasn't the product, it was the people. So getting to really know the person beneath all the layers, that's what matters, heart to heart, head to head.
Exactly. That's
To
it.
work hand in hand.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I
Handing back to
totally
you,
agree.
Jen.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Patrenia. I missed that one.
Handing back to you for wrapping up and
Oh, yeah. So,
sprinkling
Bev,
your empathetic magic. I bring the energy, she brings the empathy. That's our teamwork.
Bev, I'm holding you in my heart, like I said. Thank you so much for making time for this. We feel really blessed. And I think there are a number of tips and tricks you shared with us that we can put in our pepper to make our own pepper soup. So thank you so much, Bev. And to our listeners, thank you, soulmates, for joining us today on Pepper Soup Stories. Our guest, Bev, has shared her inspiring journey of nearly 30 years of marriage, fulfilling careers, and embracing new adventures, from building her dream home in Nairobi to starting her own hospitality business. Bev calls herself an energizer. I love it. Bev's energy and passion are infectious. As she looks forward to the next chapter surrounded by her loved ones, we're excited to see what the future holds. Yeah? Thank you, Bev, for sharing your zest for life with us. Until next time, stay inspired.
And guess
There you
what?
go.
If you look below, we'll see all about Bev's ventures, because we do want you to experience Pumbaa. So we're going to have all of that included. So check below.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed talking to you both. Lovely to see you again, Ejemen.
Ciao. I'll be in touch. And send those pictures, Bev.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, share with a friend, leave a review, and connect with us on social media. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, soulmates, stay inspired, keep growing, and turn life's peppers into a flavorful soup. Connect below. Bye-bye for now.